broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
Hello and welcome everyone to a very last minute live broadcast with Kiri Campbell, an update from yesterday. As soon as we got off our show with her yesterday with the One People show, there was a knock on her door, and it was a mainstream media crew, ironically from a network called the One Network, and wanting to do a story with her. And Kiri being smart Kiri, didn't do anything on the spot and arranged for them to come back this morning. And I was privy. We did actually record and video that footage that was taken this morning, and that's being processed as we speak. But just wanted to bring Kiri in and give you guys an update on what's really going on over there. And in terms of the credit exchange has gotten some attention. And there is an agenda to suppress and discredit it. The thing went live on Friday, so they're pretty on the ball with this. So welcome back, Kiri.
Thank you.
Now, yesterday, what went down yesterday when they turned up on your door?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. I was just sort of sitting here, and I just got off the show with you guys, and I looked out my window and I thought, oh, God, one of our board members are here. And then there were two men behind her dressed in suits. So at that point I sort of thought, I don't know these people. And they sort of came onto the property and they went and checked out our mobile branch, and then they come strutting into the house with one of our board members. And they were looking for a shyster. And so when they walked in, they were quite surprised when they seen this little Māori girl standing there saying, "Hi, I'm Kiri. I founded the Credit Exchange." They were totally swept off their feet by it. They spent a couple of hours with us yesterday just asking us questions. And they did ask if they could record. And I said, no, we've got standard operating procedures for that. So we'll need to contact our board. We'll need to contact our team. Get the consent from our team before we go ahead with anything. I said, so what we can do is we can arrange to meet you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. You come down to our beautiful wānanga, and if everything's all go, then we'll carry on with the interview. We gave them what
did they spend 2 hours or 3 hours doing yesterday? What were you showing them or talking to them about?
We were showing them the products and the services of the Credit Exchange, which blew them away because they weren't expecting from the article that came out on Sunday. They weren't expecting what they got. They were expecting some shonky garage, hackers in a garage just putting together this system with cardboard bits of paper was the term that was used. And really? To their surprise and amazement, they were just blown away at the level of the technology and how professional the Credit Exchange really was. So it was a really big eye-opener for them. So what I did was I gave them a lesson. I gave them a bit of an education yesterday because they clearly did not understand the foreclosures. They didn't understand how banks create money. They thought that banks were allowed to just come and take 6% of your any income that goes in there, and that's what they're using to hypothecate on and lend out. Which I pulled up the Reserve Bank and I pointed out a few things to them yesterday, which totally blew them out of the water. Not only that, my board started showing up as well, and we're made up of some really bright, talented individuals. So they got a real lesson and a half, which meant we were just really preparing them to be able to interview us, because there's no point in interviewing us if you don't understand that whole concept of the foreclosures, the bankruptcies, the banks, and how the creation of money works. So we needed them to understand that. because otherwise we would have just ended up in a sort of to-ing and fro-ing and not really getting anywhere. So what we did was we put together some agreements, some contracts, and I researched the two guys that showed up on my doorstep. One was camera guy, the other one was the reporter. Tracked down all the details, and first thing this morning they would have got that contract in their email saying, we need you to sign this, and these are the terms and conditions. So anyway, when they showed up at our wānanga today for the interview, we then, obviously you guys were there, they were really, really nervous about that whole thing. When they seen that we were talking to you guys, they were just like, they were not feeling comfortable with that at all. And one of the questions
that came through clearly.
Yeah, one of the questions that I kept posing to them was, before we go ahead with this interview, we've got procedures and we actually require you to fill out these forms before we can go ahead with anything. And I'll tell you what, they were not, they did not want to sign anything. They couldn't give us definitive answers, and they were sort of mincing up all the words and still trying to dodge the fact that we needed this agreement signed. And they were even making up things like, oh, that's going to take half a day. And I said, well, did you not say that you could be up here for as long as it takes? So
it's going to take half a day to sign a piece of paper.
Yeah, that's right. Because now they were saying, oh, we now need to get our legal team to look at it. And I said, by all means, please do that. You're entitled to be able to get your legal team to look at it. So anyway, what the reporter did, Matt Chisholm is his name, he called his boss. And I ended up speaking with his boss. And I was very direct with him. And I just said to him, look, we've got protocols and we're going to require you to sign a few things. And basically the agreement goes like this, that you won't alter or amend or distort the understanding that the founding elders have that have founded this credit exchange. You won't distort any of that information to manipulate. And they said, oh, we need to edit it. I said, yeah, absolutely, you can edit it, but do not edit it to the point where you have manipulated our understanding of it. I don't really care what your understanding of it is. I don't want you to manipulate our understanding. So at that point, I had to rewrite one of the contracts and email it out because they didn't. The email I sent it to was actually to their main office. So I got their personal emails and started doing that. And anyway, I didn't even get to really finish that because after that, it was quite evident that they weren't going to sign it. And then when I spoke to the boss, I just said to him, look, okay, if you can't, he was claiming he couldn't sign it because he couldn't see the form. So he can't sign anything he can't see. Surprise, surprise. So I said, well, that's okay. I want you to give me your verbal agreement right here, right now. Yes or no? And once again, look, you need to trust us. You need to trust that Matt's a professional and, we're not into distorting anything. I said, well, listen, media doesn't have a good reputation with us and a lot of other people in this world, and we need to make sure that you are going to provide a fair interview and not attach any sort of stigma to it. And once again, like I spoke to him for a good few minutes, almost 5 minutes. I spoke to the boss.
I heard you repeatedly asking,
yeah,
is that a verbal yes? Is that a yes? Are you agreeing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he just a yes or no, and he would not.
No, he would not. So right then, alarm bells went off for me. So I then said to Matt, who was the reporter, I said, Matt, give us a look at those questions. And he was sort of like, oh, my questions, what for? And I said, well, I want to see the questions so I can prepare myself. Oh, no, well, that's not how I work. I never show people my questions because, we like to sort of have the spontaneity in it. And I said, well, no, not happening, Matt. Give us your questions and we'll see if this is going to go ahead. So the first question that was on the top of his list was, Kiri, you've been in the news before, haven't you? So straight away, alarm bells went off for me and I went, nah. You guys ain't here to, put out the real story. What you're here to do is attach the stigma that Kiri Campbell got when I deposited the 15 million. They were there to attach that stigma to the credit exchange to discredit us. And that stood out a mile away as soon as I looked at the first lot of his questions. The second question that he was saying was, what is your opinion about banks? So, here in New Zealand, anyone that challenges banks, it actually falls under the Terrorism Act. So you're seen as a terrorist. So once again, I didn't feel comfortable with answering that kind of question because I don't want them to allude to the fact that I could be a potential terrorist when I'm just a mum who's out there trying to support her community and trying to help these people get out of the rut that they're in. So at that point, I then called my, we call him our captain because he takes the lead when it comes to public affairs. And we got our chief commander, and I said to him, right, I need to speak with you outside. I had a word with him. I says, here's what's happening. Here's what's not happening. So what I explained to him, I says, no, they're not here to put out a proper story. They're actually here to attach that stigma to it, to discredit it. I said, so on that, you go in there and you cut the interview. So Keith rocked in there and just basically said to them, look, guys, you're not prepared, you're not ready. I'm almost certain you guys have got that too, because I purposely left my laptop up and I aimed it towards them so that you guys could get all that information. Because let's say Matt decides to put out a story tomorrow, Wednesday.
That was just going to ask you, did they turn their cameras on at any point, do you think?
No, they didn't turn their cameras on. But I'll tell you what, we had all of our cameras on. So we had laptops on, we had iPhones recording, you name it. We were well prepared. So they sort of walked in like, oh gosh, oh my gosh, we didn't expect this. But what they needed to realise is they're not dealing with just any Joe blogs. They're dealing with people that are well trained, highly experts in our fields. And we weren't going to take anything lying down. So
a little war weary from experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to protect this credit exchange because we already know that this here goes against the grain. So to give them any little attempt to try and discredit us is not us. And what we would prefer to do is go to those alternative media outlets that we trust and believe in and that we know will get the truth out to our people without distorting it. And that's why when I messaged you last night, I thought this would be a great opportunity for the Conscious Consumer Network and the One Network to be able to do a live feed recording mainstream media interviewing us. That way we could actually compare the two stories because the people will get the uncut, unedited version in its raw state and then they'll be able to compare that to the story that they actually brought out. So it would have made it very difficult for that media to be able to distort any of the information without highlighting themselves. And this goes back to what I was saying yesterday. If we're doing the right thing, doors open. But if we're doing the wrong thing, doors slam shut on our face. And unfortunately for them, the door slammed shut on their face today and we sent them packing in a really polite, professional way, of course. I even went out there and thanked them for coming afterwards, and just let them know that until we feel comfortable and we feel like we've got some sort of connection with them, then we don't feel comfortable doing any reports with any mainstream media, and we would prefer to give it to those that we trust and that we know. So once again, he was still...
Do you think that they might put a story out tomorrow anyway?
Oh, I think they could possibly try. Just picking up on their energy, I think they could possibly try, put out some sort of story. But in saying that, that's why we always maintain that we need to be 4 or 5 steps ahead of them and in multiple directions. That way we can combat or alleviate anything that they sort of throw at us. And what we want to offer to the people is transparency. We want them to know the truth. We want it in its raw state, not this edited stuff that the media want you to hear, and they block out all the stuff that you should be hearing. And so that's our point of view on it.
So what's been the follow-up since Sunday? Sunday, I assume, was the first mainstream article on the credit exchange. That was in print form in newspapers, or was that on TV?
Was in the Herald. That was in the Herald, and that's like our national newspaper. So that went national right across the country on Sunday. And so the
follow-up from that.
Yeah. The follow-up from that was that we made contact with the Herald and the news reporter, but she refuses to call us back.
Did she actually interview you personally?
No, she never interviewed anybody. What she did was she went on our page, and on our page we've stuck our first draft commercial. Now, she made a point that major retailers were distancing themselves. And so I posed the question that if that were true, how come in our draft commercial we're actually in the Kaikohe Caltex and we're in New World in Kaikohe recording the swipe of the credit exchange card and demonstrating how people can actually, purchase basic resources and food with their cards. So now she's refused. She's been quite dishonourable. She hasn't called us back at all. She hasn't made contact with our PR person who's in charge of that. And our PR team have been trying to contact her pretty much since Sunday to get a proper interview so that she can actually sit down with the horses and interview them. But the way she put that article out was if she had interviewed us. But I can guarantee you now, and I can assure the world, that she hasn't spoken to any of us. So all of her information that she put out was based on false allegations, assumptions, as per usual. And once again, just highlighting just how corrupt they really are when it comes to hiding things.
So what's next in terms of trying to get an approach with or a relationship with mainstream media in New Zealand?
Yeah, so what
have you got anybody over there who'd be prepared to sign your...
Yeah, there is. I'm certain there would be. What we've decided to do is we've decided to take it back to our Māori radio stations and our Māori media outlets, purely because they understand from a Māori perspective where we're coming from, but they also understand this is just not for Māori, this is for everybody and anybody. So they have that understanding, which would make it far more easier to give the information to them for them to be able to translate it properly than it would be to give it to mainstream media who are totally 100% ignorant and not even willing to try and come and have a balanced perspective on things. And what we are doing is this week is we're going to be doing the swipes. So I'm taking a team out tomorrow. We're going to be knocking on some major retailers to get those merchant forms filled in. We're just going to film the swipe because as far as I'm concerned, that the proof is in the pudding. And once that goes out and we've got a lot more evidence out there backing us, then we'll be happy to go to any mainstream media because they're going to find it really, really hard, especially when the proof has been already put out live to the world, to be able to try and discredit the credit exchange. I
just want to check in with Biggie. If anybody wants to call in and ask Kiri something, is that doable right now? Okay. Yes, you can, and Biggie's about to put the numbers up on the screen. So if you're watching this live at either the Conscious Consumer Network's live stream channel, website, or at lisamharrison.com, you should see the call-in number coming up any minute now. This is really, really interesting because they've jumped on this. You go live on Friday.
Yeah.
A story comes out on Sunday.
Yeah.
Already, that with no background, no knowledge, no information, no nothing.
Yeah.
You've got a mainstream media crew turn up. What is it, Wednesday for you still?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this caught their attention pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why.
Were they given the heads up that this was coming?
Now, I'll tell you what happened. The day that we launched was at Waitangi Day, which is a big national day here in our country. And so at Waitangi, all the cabinet ministers, parliamentary people, they are all attending that event. And I'll tell you what happened. We had a few ministers, they were heading towards our tent and they sort of just stopped in their tracks. One of them was Winston Peters. And he's really cool. We love Winston Peters, man. He is one of the most charismatic. He's just an amazing politician. He's really awesome. So he sort of stopped in his tracks and sort of went, what the heck? And you could see the look on his face. And then he turns to his colleague and he says something. And then they both look. But you could see the look on their face like, oh, my gosh, this is serious. This is actually happening. Yeah, damn straight it's happening. And the feedback that we got back was that there was not one tent in that whole entire field on Waitangi Day, and it was made up of thousands of people attended that event, but there was not one tent or one group of people that wasn't talking about the credit exchange. So everyone was talking about it that whole day on Waitangi. So when you go to Waitangi, you're now on an international playing field. So things go really, really quickly. And that's why we launched on Waitangi Day, and we launched at Waitangi purely because we knew that it would get the attention that we were hoping for it to get.
Okay. I imagine there was a lot of media there on the day too. Did you get anybody coming up to you on the day?
Not so much mainstream media, but we did have, there was a couple of radio stations there that were very keen to make contact with us, but I was so busy that day that there there were so many people that actually had to walk away because the lines and the crowds were so thick with people that a lot of people did turn away and didn't get a chance. So what they did was they privately messaged me on Facebook and said, I try to get in to see you and whatnot, but there was just too many people that we'd been waiting around for hours trying to get in, but the crowd swell was just too big. So I apologise to all those that didn't get in to see us.
Just a question then. I mean, Waitangi Day, you're going to have a whole range of people there in terms of their education on how the system works. Yeah. Everything from completely unawares and ignorant to those who are right on top of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for those who were in the completely unawares category, what's your elevator speech to them in terms of how do you, because this is you're not just offering a new service that they may be familiar with. In order for them to get it, there's a whole lot of background and understanding that needs to go with it. So how are you approaching
that depends. So what I usually do is I usually feel the person out, and usually I can pick up on what level or what degree, and that will determine what my approach is. And generally for those that just don't get it at all, what I say to them is, it's okay that you don't get it, so here, go and test it. And by testing it and trying it, you'll actually be able to come to that understanding on how it works. And, I always say that the moment someone walks into a shop, they've topped their card up through applying for a credit boost through us, had it applied to their payment card. Once they go into a shop and swipe it and walk out with their bread and butter, I'm almost certain they don't really care how anything else works. They get it.
I'll go along with that.
But for those that sort of have a fair idea, we're only too happy to sit them down with any of our 4 promo teams to be able to explain to them the products and services, to be able to explain how can they register, to also give a demonstration on how the systems work, and then also talk about our franchises and our partnerships that we're making available so that people in other countries can now take the system and run it in their country or with their community for themselves.
Okay, so you don't feel that people need to understand, because this is the biggest one, the where the value's coming from, where's the underwriting coming from, where is, I don't have any gold or silver, I don't have any money in the bank, that's the hard part to get over and get past.
Yeah. How I explain it to them is I explain to them about, when they say to me, well, where does the money come from? What I usually do is I break it down and I ask them, well, what is your perspective on what do you think money is? And when I can identify what their level of understanding of money is, I'll then either go into it a lot further and break it down for them, or we'll just simply explain to them about our intrinsic value and our intrinsic value based on our value as a consumer. And I find when I deliver it that way, people tend to get it better. And then I give a little demonstration on how I did yesterday about how valuable or what's the value in that car if there's no human being there behind it to drive it. Where does that leave the manufacturer if there's no value, if there's no human there to be able to purchase the car, to be able to drive the car and make use of that product or that service? And when I deliver it like that, they tend to get it, because they're like, actually, they stop and they start thinking for themselves and they say, actually, you're right. Without us driving that car or eating that food or consuming that, there would be no value. There would be no value in that paper, that $20 note or that $50 note or that $100 note, without the human holding it in their hands and giving it the value by handing it over. So when I explain it to them like that, it's quite easy for them to be able to get. And I haven't had anyone that hasn't been able to understand that. Even right from, we had some elderly people come along and they've known it, but they don't understand the mechanisms of it. So when I explained that to them, they said to me, oh, kōrero, which is, girl, they said, you're right. We've been living in this belief system that the money or the gold has the value, but none of that has any potential or any worth unless we're there to give it. And I said, so that is your right.
Firstly, it stays in the ground unless someone's prepared to dig it out, for one thing.
Yeah. You could just leave it in the ground and you could record it all on documentation through a valuation report. And you could leave.
It requires your faith and agreement with another individual that it has value.
Absolutely. And it all works like faith. It's just faith. If you have faith, then it works. And that came from an economist, not from me, who actually works for the government.
I just want to see if we're going to... Video could not lie or timed out. Ooh. Okay. Are we still streaming? There seems to be an issue at my end, or maybe it's just my page needs to reload. Yes, we are. Okay. I just want to know if we're going to get any callers. Otherwise, we'll move along. Was there any other updates you wanted to share with us during this?
Yeah, just that we're going to be approaching major retailers tomorrow morning. The first lot of the cards are going to be going out today, so those that are expecting cards can expect them in the mail within the next couple of days. Also, our business dinner events that are going to be starting from next week onwards. Anyone that's keen to that has a business and would like to be invited to that business dinner event, because it is an invitation, exclusive invitation only. And you'll need to have that invitation before you can get entry into. We've got some pretty good security guards there. But they just need to make contact with us if they want to attend those. Because what we've got is we've got a panel of experts all lined up, ready to be able to prove and share the facts, share the systems, and then the solution to move us all forward, and how that all works technically. And any questions that they've got that they want to ask can be done at the business dinner meeting. So we're going to be doing that next week. We want to do the swipe this week. So what we would like to do is call you guys in again so that we can actually do a live feed out to the world with these swipes. And I think that would be a great thing for people to be actually being able to tune in and view that live.
You've got big email in the background. Jumping up and down, I know you have.
I've seen that done.
Yeah. So
as far
in terms of the business,
we're going to give the exclusive to CCN and to the One Network.
Oh. Well, not jumping physically, but yeah. In terms of the businesses, how many have you got confirmed attending?
150 are confirmed around the Northland area.
Wow. Are any of those big names that would be known outside of New Zealand?
Yes, they are. Do you know Bunnings?
Oh, yeah.
You know Bunnings, you know New World, Z petrol station. Yeah.
Oh, yes, Z.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Bunnings is, I suppose, just like your, would it be Coles? No, it probably wouldn't be Coles.
No, we've got Bunnings.
Oh, Bunnings, yep. Home Depot.
Home Depot, yeah.
And New World is just like your Woolworths.
It's a supermarket chain.
Yeah, it's a supermarket chain. So we have had a rep go and contact Eric Rush to attend the meeting, and all up the database that we currently hold of all the confirmed ones that gave us their business cards and said, yes, absolutely, we'd love an invitation. There's about 150 businesses there. And then once we've done the business dinner here in the Northland area, we're going to move over to Tauranga. We're going to do the same in Tauranga. And then we're going to move over to, I believe, the Waikato after that. Do the same in the Waikato, and then move down to Taranaki and Whanganui, and then down to Wellington.
All sounds like names of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
Because they mean nothing to me. I have no idea where any of them are.
Wellington is our capital.
That I've heard of. Considering you're only about 3 hours away from me, that's pretty poor actually on my part. Yeah,
but we've had a lot of confirmed businesses that would like to join that. Not only that, we've already had a few businesses that have confirmed that they'd like to be able to do the swipe. Just a few local businesses in Kaikohe, so we're very excited about that. Right. And doing a live feed.
That's going to be exciting. I mean, when people
see
firsthand in real time that these things work.
Yeah. And then it's just a matter of copying the blueprint and sending it out to all the... See, what you need to do is you need to have a team. Here in the Northland, what I did was I set up a team, and I've got an awesome team. I've got a board who actually oversee all the work that I do, and they also assist me in a lot of the decisions that are being made. And then what we do is we go out to the people and we share that. And then what they do is they bring us a lot of questions and concerns. And what that does is it helps us to identify those concerns and those questions so we can implement solutions to be able to alleviate those things. So you need a good team behind you, and you just need to, once the blueprint's set here, you just need to take the blueprint to whatever country you're in and just duplicate it.
I know that one of the questions that came up yesterday that probably didn't get directly addressed because it was right at the end was why the need for franchises in the first place. I mean, I'm just assuming it's an effort to get the word out a hell of a lot quicker.
Yeah, it is. It was a part of our strategy to spread this thing out nationally really, really quickly. So one of the things that we looked at was when you create a centralised headache for the powers that were, they're able to sort of come in and target you. But when you set up a national and an international headache, they don't have the resources to be able to contend with that sort of action. So it forces them into a position where they either make or break. And I can guarantee you they don't have the resources. So we want to send this out as far and wide as possible to be able to create that international awakening so that we've got the backing so that, you know, when we come head to head with one another, we're going to have to come to some sort of negotiation with them purely because we're not going anywhere. The people aren't going anywhere. And there are more people that want to see this than there are that don't. So they certainly are just the 1%. We are the 99. So to me, it's a numbers game, and he who has the numbers wins by default.
You just reminded me, I watched A Bug's Life again the other day. We're right at the finale of A Bug's Life right now, I think.
We are.
Nice. Okay.
This is the grand finale.
Well, this has been, you know, I mean, this is the culmination of 2 years of understanding, of conversations, of dreaming, of hoping, you know, and it is going to require, I mean, this is what we talked about 2 years ago. This is the vision that was created back then. And it is going to require everybody to get behind it in order for it to work. I mean, if you can prove that the mechanics of it work, if you can prove that not just the physical mechanics of transactions, but also how can I put this? That we have a right. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Very good friend of mine walked away from a credit card a few years ago. And because of their understanding, which came from me, they didn't do their own research. They just wanted to be updated, if you know what I mean. You just tell me what you learned, right? So they never did the work themselves. So they never went on the journey themselves. And they didn't embody that information themselves. They just took data from me and acted on it.
Copy and paste bandits.
Yeah, copy and paste bandits. And so come 2 years later and they're being taken to court by debt collectors. Now, even though they know debt collectors have no right, debt collectors are a third party, you know, that whole spiel.
That's right.
Still had that very intrinsic feeling of guilt because in their mind, they still borrowed the money and they still had an obligation to pay it back. Even though mentally and intellectually they understood that the bank never actually lent them anything. The bank never had anything to lend them in the first place, that it was drawn on their value. They understood all of that intellectually, but the emotional and psychological programming was so deep that the sense of needing to pay it back was still there. And they ended up agreeing to an out-of-court settlement in order to do something that their head said they didn't really have to, but the rest of them felt obligated to. Yeah. And that is still the hardest part in the conversations that I have. But I took the money, I used the money, I benefited from the money, I should pay it back. Yeah. And that's still a hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, it is. It's huge. It's huge in our people. And to me, I don't see any of that changing until enough people actually come to that understanding. Like I said, it's a numbers game. You really need the numbers there to be able to come to that understanding. And I say to anyone if you're just being a copy and paste bandit, don't even take this road, because you need. I'm okay. I've had a number of years to be able to. I mean, I've studied like you wouldn't believe. I've investigated and I've researched. Now, I haven't just gone along and listened to what someone has told me. I've listened, but I've then gone out and applied it, and I've researched and I've investigated what was true and what wasn't. There's a lot of disinformation out there, and there's a lot of propaganda, and it's mixed in between the truth. And so I always say to people, if you are not willing to make the effort, I would advise that you just don't even start down that road, because it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not an easy road to take. And boy, oh boy, help you if you don't have all your ducks lined up in a row and you don't have all your tricks in your bag. Because they come in, they're very smart. They're very good at, I mean, if you heard the reporters today, they just have a way with manipulating without answering the question. And so that's one example of how good they are at their jobs. And if you don't know your stuff, trust me when I say this, judge is going to spot you a mile away. Now, there's so much information out there that was making us the beneficiaries of the estate. And I actually believe that one part there. But as I did my research and my investigation, I realised we did not want to be any beneficiaries of any estate, purely because the beneficiaries under a discretionary trust meant that it was up to the discretion of the trustee to decide how much and if that beneficiary gets anything at all. So, those
Kiri,
that are going around saying...
You do have a caller, love. I just wanted to let you know that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
How do we invite them in?
Hello, caller. You are unmuted, I believe.
Hey, Lisa. And Kiri. This is Carrie in the United States.
Carrie, as in Carrie Ellis?
Yep.
Hi.
Hi. I'm listening to you guys talk, and it's wonderful. It's awesome. I'm wondering from Kiri what she feels like the business climate is there. In New Zealand, it sounds like there's maybe more kind of adventurous business owners I think I heard you guys say at one point it's a smaller community. But as far as thinking of where we could implement this other places in the world and kind of comparing, maybe seeking areas that it might work better, I guess that's my question.
The immediate thing that comes to mind is in the US is the states that have already legalized cannabis.
Right, of course. Yeah, well, Colorado's kind of been my home base for 20 years, and that's there right now. But
the more open-minded states, I suggest, yeah.
Carrie, I would say start with your indigenous communities, start with your communities that are trying to operate an alternative currency, and start with your smaller communities before you hit your bigger cities, because it's way easier. If you collect numbers there and you've got your numbers within your smaller communities, it makes it much easier so that when you do go to the bigger places to be able to roll out with the systems. But I would say go and look for those communities that are already running alternative currencies, because this is basically will give their alternative currency a massive boost in terms of technology and being able to trade and exchange like we're used to trading and exchanging. So I would say start with those sorts of places first and smaller communities, because it's much easier to be able to share that. And especially if there's communities out there that have been trying to make a change, but without any luck, go to those ones that want to be there, not the ones that need to be babied or need to be taught this or not ready for it. Pick up the ones that are ready for it, because they will be your driving force and they will be the reason why you get it out there faster, sooner rather than later. And I'm not saying leave those ones that don't get it behind. What I'm saying is pick up the ones that want to be there, because that's productive, and then go back for the ones that don't understand it when you've got enough people there to be able to prove
Brilliant. It. Yeah, that's a brilliant idea, really. Going where people already are having the idea to make change. Yeah. I like that. That's great.
And what you do is you network all of those communities up with one another. So you pull them all into that one network, so that now it doesn't matter how far apart you are, you've all got to link into one another so you can support one another.
Nice. Great idea. Cool. That was my question. I love what's going on. I think it's a giant leap for moving everything forward on the planet, and I'm here just jumping up and down. So onward and forward. And thank you, Lisa, for being in the midst of it. And Kiri, I just look forward to hearing more from you.
Thank you, Kiri. It was lovely speaking with you today.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks, Kiri.
Bye.
There's also a question in the chat room in regards to teams, and your team in particular. You know, like, can you describe the talents required to really form a good team?
Yeah, we've got people that are experts in public relations. We've got our own film crew. We've got our own security team. We've got people that are experts in I suppose, well, not so much the banking, but they have integrity with their community. We've got all sorts of people. We've got IT experts there. We've got website developers there, and just genuine people that are willing to be the change, to make the change. And you'll know them. And what I've noticed that each and every single one of us do have in our team, despite our diversities and our backgrounds, is that we all have heart. We all have this heart. And
Whoops. Okay, Kiri, if you can still hear me, turn your camera off and then back on again. See if we can't get you to unfreeze. There's I did get word from Biggie that every time one network, one people, or Transpicuous News, or yesterday's show, for example, the attacks on the live stream and our internet and everybody's personals are kind of off the scale. So, yep, we're having loads of it, he says. Okay, Kiri. Well, this may be the end of this update for now. We will keep you guys posted on what's happening as much as we can. This does require everybody to get behind it if it's going to work. If this is going to be the platform, and there's no reason why it can't be by the looks of it, then we all need to jump on board and give as much support to it as we can. Spread the word. I signed up yesterday so that I could have a look around the website. There are things in there that, as Kiri said yesterday, they've put everything on the front end initially to meet as many current requirements as possible. So while in the background they figure out how they can strip that back. So if you do see references to an ID or a photo ID, it's not necessary anymore. It's just that the website hasn't been updated. If you do see the requirement for a tax number, it's no longer required. The website just hasn't been updated. There's a couple of other things too. So any references to I don't know about all, but certainly any references at this point to how the system currently works is being worked on in the background to pull back. I'm just getting a message now as to whether or not she'll be back. Okay, I think she might be getting back on, but nothing from her as yet. Where is she? Kiri, you coming back? No. Okay, Biggie, I think we might need to call it quits. Thank you to CCN for last minute making this available to us. Thank you to Kiri for the update. The recording of the conference, or I won't say confrontation, but interaction she had with the mainstream media this morning will be still being processed and will be archived. And thank you to India for allowing us to cut in on her regular slotted scheduled showtime. So thank you, everyone. I'll see you in about an hour for the Collective Imagination. Bye for now.